Drennan, Fairbairn Protocol H2H. Had a question recently regarding our methodology and how we would deal with a knife attack. The question was quite precise. They said we don't want a static attack. By that I assume they're referring to those type of videos where you have a guy who's standing there and he's got a knife in his hand, and the other fellow who's going to do the defense is standing there, and they prepare themselves, and then the guy lunges usually or attacks over top or whatever. So that would, I think, would be a static attack. He says a dynamic attack. So a dynamic attack, in my mind, is an attack. He's looking for more of a touch of reality here. So there becomes variable things into it right away. A dynamic attack, by the very word dynamic, means a changing attack. So I would assume he's talking about the chase where you can have secondary follow-ups, this type of thing. But in actual fact, when you use dynamic, you start using the word variable. You start using variable, you start understanding the reality of knife fighting. In the circles I come from, the fast answer for a solid defense against knife is your fucked. Basically, it gives you a situation where it's a horror show. We consider it to be an absolute horror show. Because even people who are semi-skilled in a knife or just hyper-aggressive offer a level of deadliness that is just unfathomable. So that has to be taken into account immediately with regard to nature of response and in regard to a nature of state of mind you are in at the point of response. I would also like to touch back to the concept of multiple people out there who are telling us all these methods of self-defense. I want to go right away to Lee Morrison. Lee Morrison, I think, hit it smack on when he started talking about this type of thing in a video he did about women's self-defense. And he says, if they want your shit, give them your shit, because you can always get more shit. And I thought that was absolute brilliance, because that's the truth. You can eliminate a whole complication of self-defense if providing them with your stuff, stuff that you can return, regain, is a great idea. Imagine giving $20 and having somebody walk away. You couldn't get a better self-defense for $20. So it was absolutely brilliant, because it addresses the reality of that situation, hence the robbery scenario. In real life, we'd come down to only one time you ever want to defend against a knife, and that's when you have to. You have no choice whatsoever. This guy is going to try to gut you. That's it. That's all. And you now have to deal with it. So that's the reality of self-defense. So here's the first thing that happens in self-defense videos. Is it felt even classes. I've seen multiple classes where they deal with this and they don't expand. They say, okay, guy's got a knife and he's not in front of you and he's going to do X, Y, Z. Okay. Well, we don't even go near that point in Fairbairn Protocol H2H. The very first thing we thought about is environment. Where the hell were you when this knife attack took place? What is the environment are you in? Are you able to see people around you? Are you outdoors? Are you in the winter? Are you slippery on the ground due to a washed floor or ice or whatever you wish? Are you underwater? Are you a diver? All these situations demand the forethought of where we're going to go with our methodology of attack or defense. So one method or one brisk little disclosure of opportunity is not really the answer for knife attack. The answer for a knife attack is much more dynamic than that. So that's why we step back very good. The first question we ask is, what were you doing at the time of the attack? You see, or actually even just prior to the attack. Because if I'm going to be attacked in an elevator, how did that guy get into the elevator with the knife? Did he have it in his hand? If he had it in his hand, then why didn't I deal with it before I got into the elevator? In whatever fashion. To not go into anything technical just yet. If he's 10 feet away from me, why am I not moving to other opportunities, grab things, remove myself from the situation, multiple opportunities. If it's closed, for example, meaning it's close to my vision, it's away behind his back, or inside the body pockets, for example, already, and we can't tell it's there, okay, fine. Then how are you positioned in that elevator, should there be a case of an attack, be it physical, or be it a weapon, or be whatever? I mean, this is forethought. This is what you should be doing. This is why we talk so hard. Like, if you go to Kelly McCann, Tim Larkin, Lee Morrison, we all talk about awareness. Know what the fuck is going on around you. If you got headphones on and your head up your ass and a winter jacket, you better be looking for other things. So the idea being is that awareness sets the stage for prevention, not opportunity. You see what I'm saying in the opportunity of the bad guy. So The same thing as if you're outside the street or if you're walking. If you're walking down dark alleys and the guy comes out with a knife, what are you doing in a dark alley? If you're walking through a park late at night and the guy comes out with a knife, what are you doing in a park? If you're walking in places where people can be opportune to, like, if you're asking yourself a question, where can I create a robbery scenario where I can get a knife out and threaten somebody, then you should be in those places, or you should be in them with special awareness or special conditions. So again, this comes back to the whole thing of deterring the action before it even occurs. So then we start to talk about that type of scenario. We expanded, here I used the elevator example, but we expanded to wherever we are, as I did with the points of, you know, are you in a park, are you here or there? Once you're there, are you doing the commands that you're supposed to be doing? Now the commands, we talk about logical steps prior to encountering violence. And that's if somebody's approaching you, are you looking at their hands? Or are you a martial artist looking at their eyes? Because eyes are deadly. You know, I mean, this is the type of thing that comes into it. As soon as somebody comes close to you, you got to be starting looking what they're doing. Are they coming towards me? Are they doing something unusual when they're stepping? Are they carrying funny? Do they look funny? Are they looking at me in a strange fashion? You start to evaluate your situation. This is not an in-depth study. This is not something that is heavy. It's one of the things we avoid in our methodologies when we teach these preventions. It can't be that you've got to go through life doing certain things and your whole life is confined by process and technique. It's not that hard. You look, you see what they're doing, you have a glance, and you know right away. If there's something strange, you continue to follow up on the point that's strange. It's as simple as that. If you can't see his hands, if he's approaching you, you can't see his hand, then that's a strange object. Because people don't do that. They walk with their hands up. So if they're hiding something and what it is, you have to start asking a question because it's logical concern at that point. If you were using color codes, your color codes would change. It's simple as yellow to orange type of thing. So this is the methodology again where we have to start looking at that is how you first start doing it. Once we start doing that, then we start considering our options depending on our time. If he's running at me with a knife in his hand, my time to consider options is very different than if he's walking, he's got some strange hand position, for example, or he's keeping his hand in his pocket as he's walking towards you, because that's also an opportunity for complication. So we have different things. We also have to think about what's available to us. Are there chairs nearby? Are there tables nearby? Can I stand behind my car door? Can I be on the opposite side of a car? Can I walk around a car to avoid him? Can I put a garbage can between me? I mean, multiple things. Is there things I can throw? Ashtrays, gravel off the ground, pocket full of change, hot coffee in my hand. You know, even anything that is an opportunity to further your chances. Then this is the methodology of how to defend against a knife. And notice I use the word defend, because people like to use the word disarm. I ain't disarming anybody. Get that clear. In this methodology, we're not disarming anybody. No. This is about going home. We're talking about taking care of the problem and getting out. So we're not going to be disarming him. We're going to be hurting him. In the methodologies of knife defense, you talk about two separate focuses. People talk, take care of the weapon, take care of the head. We're head guys. We're going to take care of the brain, that is or the body, better say, because I don't limit to the brain. Throat's a nice target. We would worry about stopping the object, the human, that wants to cause the damage using the tool. Be it a gun, be it a knife, be it a rock, be it whatever, be it his fist. We want to stop that so that he doesn't have the opportunity, never mind the capability, I should actually reverse those, to continue the violence against me or to launch a violence against me. So, again, so we go all the way back, we do all that awareness stuff beforehand, and we check ourselves. The first thing I would do, given the opportunity for a dynamic attack, is get something that I can get between me and him, to be able to fuck up his ability to attack me, to be able to screw up his method of lunging at me, or God forbid, because any person who's attacking you, if they're an expert, I mean, they know what the shit they're doing. They have a good idea of how to flank, how to stage, how to step and drop. They have all these things in their heads that are just natural to them, and they have that deadly weapon in their hand. And that's a heavy concern. According to Fairbairn and Sykes, their quote is, run like fuck. But how do you run on a bus? How do you run on a train? How do you run on a subway platform? How do you run, all these variations, that cause complications in a crowd? How do you run? You're getting stabbed in the back as you try to get through the crowd. All these things are the reality of the situation. It's very rare you're going to be on a flat surface in a dojo with lots of people around John attacks you with a knife. It's not the truth. All these complications go on to it. So it goes back to that same thing of anything I can bring to bear, a chair between myself with him, anything, a pool cue, whatever comes to bear, a pool ball, I'll blast that ball into his chest or head if I can, but I'd probably go chest because it's center mass large to hit, and then we'll try to kick him in the balls or something. So the methodologies depend so much on the circumstance of how the violence approaches you and how it comes to you. It also depends on what they use. You know, if a guy comes up to you and he's got a little tiny pig sticker like this and he's working, he's still fucking dangerous. He can cut all your arteries. He can cut out arteries that will bleed you to death in less than 2 minutes. So this is very dangerous, but it does have some things in terms of advantage for me, in terms of range and no back cut and this type of thing. So, you know, equally such with a simple hunting knife. Something like this is equally dangerous, highly mobile, definitely strong cutting edges. You know, so it gives it, but again, certain limitations come to it. So it changes the paradigm a little bit, but not much. You take something like this now. This is a different story. You put this rascal into somebody's hands who knows what they're doing, and now you start worrying about some really serious stuff, because now people have a lot of capability and a lot of backstroke and this type of thing. There's all kinds of opportunities for moving out on the weapon, and it becomes much more dangerous. But the bottom line is, every one of these will kill you. And it only takes one strike to kill you. This little puppy here, into here, you're dead very, very quick. Because the minute you start bleeding out, you're losing power. The minute you start bleeding out, it's not like, oh, I'm wounded, and now I continue fighting. No, you're gushing out. This is an artery. You're gushing out blood. And as that's gushing out, you're getting weaker and weaker. And you're trying to maintain yourself in a fight. All he has to do is keep you moving for 2 minutes, and you're dead, without him touching you. So it becomes a very viable system. So now the whole concept of, yes, I'll get cut, don't worry, I'll step in like a brave man because I know I'll get cut. You're going to get cut where? With what? A couple of sinks with this puppy, and where are you going? So this is the complication going into the reality. In Fairbairn Protocol H2H, we teach you how to fight with a knife first, before we tell you how you're even going to have hope to deal with somebody. Because if you can't understand how something works, how are you possibly going to understand how to stop it? Imagine taking your car to somebody and say, listen, I got a 1957 Chevy. I want you to work on it. I only know fuel injection, but I'll fix it for you. No thanks, I'll take it to somebody who knows the car. It's the first thing you would think of. It's the same thing here, but we get lied to by media and such. So we're told that this is an opportunity. We only have to learn how to defend. We have to learn how to fight. Well, that's an absolute lie. It's an absolute lie. You have to understand how things work before you start understanding how to stop them. Because you don't know what the seconds are. You don't know what they're actually trying to accomplish. If I faint, am I just fainting? Or is I'm fainting to your testicles, so you stick your face out, so I'm going to back cut your throat? You know, these are the complications. You have to understand all this. So as we're going through this, and we're dealing with this, and we're understanding now, in Barry Drennan, the guy talking to you here, the way that he would be approaching this, is first thing of all, I'm going to be avoiding it long before, if I can. If I walk into any situation where I start to get confined spaces, I start understanding where's my evacuation point, where's my backup point, and where's my optimal point towards, if I'm in an elevator. Use that example again, because it's wonderful, because you're suddenly closed inside this little miniature box. I'm going to be standing close enough to the gentleman who's in the elevator with me, comfortable enough away from him so I don't give him bad vibes, and I'll watch him on my peripheral vision as I casually have my little elevator ride, and if he even starts to move, I'll be able to detect, because I'm aware that something's coming out, and I'll be able to respond to it. Now, what response would I use? It's the same response I'll use anywhere. You got to understand, first of all, blocks against a knife are problematic, because as you start to perceive yourself being contacted from elbow point to tip, you get two things that go on. You're weaker and weaker here. It's very possible for a person with full body weight to blast through your block, and then continue the stab or thrust into you. Vice versa, they can come off the block and slice down you anyway. So these things can happen. Parries are timing, and they have complication with that, but they're probably better than blocks. But a parry, again, is a passive move when something's coming to you. Great type of opportunities should you be suddenly attacked, but now you've used the word dynamic. So it's not, I strike, you parry, you know, and the thing goes past me, because that's how parries work. They slide down beside you, and now it's over. But now I have to move to something else. And that's where the heart of what I want to talk to you about comes in. Once you have exceeded the circle, because for every single weapon, as it stands out, you have a point of where it is dangerous. The weapons become more and more dangerous the longer they are. But if you refer to Miyamoto Musashi, for example, who trained with multi-level weapons of different configurations, he always came back to the same thing. It's not the weapon that makes the difference, it's the fighter and the aggressivity of the fight. So let's move that crap aside and let's get to the real point, the aggressivity of the fighter. The fighter is the guy who's going to hurt me. So if I remain outside of that circle, I'm safe. Can I remain outside forever? That's the question. If you can, great. E.g. running. If you cannot stay outside that circle, then you need to get deep inside the circle ASAP. And that's where it can become complicated. Because if you stay outside that circle, if his hand is extended, and I have that weapon, and the man deals with this part here, all of this here is still free to work. So the moment that he's wrestling, he's hoping I'm not gonna do nothing, or he's gonna be so fast I can't do anything, but that might be a problem. It might not come out of my hand so easy. In which case, I might just punch him right in the face. Or maybe I'll kick him in the balls or I'll stomp on his knee. In either case, as soon as this comes free, I'm right here again. So as soon as I come free, I just cut any fucking thing. I don't care what that is, I just cut anything. And so therefore, his grab, it better be goddamn good, and it better be solid 100% first time, and it better work. So it goes back down to the reality of self-defense in terms of how do I take care of a dynamic attack, because once he grabs me, I don't give up. I'm going to do a lot of other shit, including bite him if I have to. So this is the whole thing. If that weapon comes clean, it's cutting. It's cutting. So again, what we work on is the concept of compression. As soon as we have that opportunity of entering in, it might be knocking the hand aside see, not parry. I'm talking about actually striking the hand to open him up or to close him up. I like closing him up so that the weapon comes inside, and then we can constrain the body to a certain degree, even if it's just our body being pressed against his body against a wall. And then we'll automatically start going for the eyes, and while that weapon's controlled, right away try to take away something from that fellow, which is deadly to you, which is vision, which is respiration, these are consciousness. These are the primary targets. I'm not going to be stomping on his shin, or actually I may, if I'm an entry, that way I may enter in, stomp on his shin, and then take his eyes. But the goal of what I'm after, and the answer to your question in terms of response to dynamic attack, is very simple. It goes like this. Range, control of range. Entry through range in whatever manner fashion possible. Be it a chair, be it a rock in the head, be it a glass of whiskey in the eyes, whatever I can do to enter range. Enter range as fast as possible, constrict the weapon, arm. I'm not talking about grabbing the wrist or grabbing the weapon, not only that, constrict the weapon arm. Anything that stops this thing from becoming more mobile as it's got the weapon in it, the less mobile it can be, he has to start using this other stuff, and I'm happier with that than I'm happier with this. It's not that I'm winning or doing anything great. I'm happier with other stuff than this. I want to remove this from the equation for as much possible as I possibly can, even if it's microscopic. I want it out of the picture. Anytime that is out of the picture, I then move to the next frame, which is, as I was saying, coming from that compression point where I try to restrict that arm, anything to rob him of something valuable. And I can't think of anything much more better than gouging the eyes or smashing the throat as a primary. These are wonderful. Of course, anything else that comes to my mind at the time that would assist me in furthering his downfall, even if it was a slap on the ear, I would be doing that. So I cannot say to you, do X or Y or B, because it's going to be a maelstrom of response based on the actual situation, the sudden of the situation, how much lead time I got ahead by whatever I did beforehand. If I was able to wound him as part of my entry in, for example, the pool ball, if I whacked one off his forehead, that would be a wonderful thing. All these things change that dynamic on how I can approach this situation and how I overcome it. But I will be looking for bloodlust from the second it starts to the second it ends. The minute I acquire in my head that there's a weapon in a pocket, so you take that little puppy there, You take them, you shove them inside your pocket, and now you're standing around like a nobody. Nobody at all. It's wonderful. I move my pocket here, that's it, and that's it. It's simple. So the minute I acquire the concept that there's a weapon involved, I'll be moving to max aggression or max evasion, whichever comes first, whichever comes viable. So, range control. Penetrate range, ASAP, best method possible at the time, as I've explained. Constrain the body so that the body cannot be continued to attack me. In other words, constraining the arm, and preferably the body as well, because if I got the arm compressed and he moves away because he's got space, his arm is no longer compressed and he can come in and cut me across the quads or gouge me in the testicles or things like that. There's major arteries inside here. So you see what I'm saying? So once we control that thing and then hurt as fast as possible, rob something viable. And I repeat again, eyes, throat, very, very strong targets. And that pretty much settles up my answer to what we're going to do in a dynamic attack. And I've placed that dynamic attack in real life, in real occasions, in real situation type of thing. In my world, where it rains and snows, etc. I hope that's answered. If you've got any more questions, just throw them in at me. I'll be glad to answer them for you. And for those who like the technique, we plan on bringing it to you, but this is pretty much the technique so far for this answer. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great day, guys. Stay strong, stay aware. Have a good day.